Hello, Pao. Today we have the intro in English.
Yes. Oh.
In case you didn't know, dear listeners, we are translators.
Yes, we do speak English. Well, I don't speak English very often, really. Not that often as Marina, but I'll do my best.
Well, I mean, we translate into Spanish, and the podcast is usually in Spanish. But
yes,
today we have an amazing guest, and we're interviewing her in English, so that's why the intro is going in English as well.
Yes,
and we wanted to discuss something that sort of came up in a conversation that we had earlier today with Paola regarding feedback.
Whoa.
Why it's so important.
Yes.
And why one needs to know how to how to receive it and also how to give it in a way that is, constructive and useful to the other person.
Yes. I think that we should be more used to get feedback. And we should take the pressure off the thing. I think that I don't know. We look at the word feedback as a big deal. It's a big deal. It's a very important tool for our work, but it shouldn't be that big a deal. You should give feedback more naturally and receive it more naturally. I don't know what you think.
I think we can agree that receiving feedback is extremely useful to the work that we do. We need the feedback to continue advancing as translators, as linguists, right?
Yes, exactly.
So you need that feedback. And I guess it's a matter of how the person sends the feedback or how you can receive it or perceive it that can be a little tricky. I think it's always important to provide that feedback in a constructive way,
in a nice way,
and nice way, and not attacking the other person's abilities, because it can also be really hurtful, right? And we've all been there, I think, as translators on the receiving end when the person giving the feedback is not as nice, and it really, it can be very detrimental to your
self-esteem. The problem for me is that we all see feedback. Okay, the word feedback tries to be more polite, because the problem is that it has how can I say? We see it as a criticism, and it's not a criticism.
Yeah.
Right? So the idea,
depending on the feedback, but it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be criticism.
Of course.
It shouldn't be an opportunity for improvement.
Yes. Yeah. And for example, when I worked at the company, we had an annual, let's say, evaluation of every employee. And so you had to conduct a meeting with your collaborators and tell them, what they could improve or what were their strengths and their weaknesses, blah, blah, blah. So that evaluation was attached to an increase in the salary. So it was always a problem, because, of course, there was always a conflict in there. So I had to do that. I had to learn that way. And it was very difficult, because even though I was nice and I tried to do it in a constructive way, there was always some grudge there, because that was attached to a salary increase. But that was in a company, the famous curve in the companies where someone decides how much do you deserve and all that. But when you work as a freelance, you need a constant feedback. You need it to do your job.
That's what I was gonna say. I think the best feedback is the regular feedback, the regular you receive, constantly. Or per project, or even
not
per week or whatever.
It's
or at the very end of a huge project,
exactly.
Where you wish you had known these preferences or these things. You wish you had been able to know this before, so that you could apply that to your work before it's too late and now
Yes, exactly.
there's nothing else you can do about it, right?
Yes,
so I think the best
final.
feedback is regular feedback and presented in a nice, constructive way, I think.
Exactly. Or at least if you're not having much time to be extra nice, because we are all the time exchanging messages, written messages via, I don't know, a chat or an email. And sometimes the written word may be harsher or maybe, or right, because you're just in a hurry. I don't know. I think about an editor, and the editor is, I don't know, doing a lot of work, and it's they do not have time to, that so in that case I think that you should be warned, like, okay, I'm going to send you feedback every time I check your work, and that's it. For example, when you work with an agency, right? I work with some editors, and there's one who's a genius, because every time you deliver some work, she says, please check that this is, please check that you missed something. I don't know, whatever. And every once in a while, she says, thank you for this. I can see your effort, So it's very nice to work with someone like that.
She's encouraging.
Yes, she's encouraging, and she's telling all the time she's giving feedback.
Yeah, right.
So there's no way.
Yeah, it's
there's
part
no
of
way
that,
you
of
work
the receiving
back.
the regular. Yeah,
exactly.
I think
and sometimes
that's so
you had a reason to do something, and it's not, you can explain, right? Oh, no, I did it because, and that's it. There's a conversation.
Yeah, it's starting a dialogue that, and then the worst of all is when you don't receive any feedback at all, and then the client ends up like ghosting you, or or like not sending you any more work.
That's
but
awful.
You don't know why.
Yes. Why? Why?
It shouldn't be allowed to do that, right? Because
no.
like you need the feedback to continue learning and growing as a professional. And I don't know. I think that everyone should be given a chance to either learn from their mistakes, or continue growing from their mistakes, or a chance to correct them and try a chance to fix them and make it right.
Yeah, because I think that sometimes the person who gives the feedback has some weird expectation of what they're going to receive, so there's a problem of expectations also.
Yeah, or style also plays a big part. Like the person is used to a certain style, and it takes some time to adapt to that style, or to understand the preference in terminology and and style.
That's it. And the other person, for example, if you work for a technology company, sometimes there's one single word that one technology company calls some way in the target language and some other, and I don't know, you work all your life for HP, and now this is for Apple, and I don't know, tableta, whatever. Those are little things. It's a very stupid example.
no, but it's so right. Like, it's the same with video games. Like, depending on what console the game is that you are translated is going to be shown. Like the terminology varies completely. Like joystick is like differently translated if you're referring to the Nintendo Switch than if you're referring to the PlayStation or Xbox. Like, they all have different terminology for like really key, user interface things. So it's huge. And if you are not provided, usually you would be provided with a very solid glossary. But if you're not provided, like these are things that you need to sort of learn and adapt.
Exactly. Yes, I think, and sometimes it also helps when you give feedback to explain why, because there are some stylistic things that are not black or white. Has to do with some choice. That you might not know. I don't know. No, we do this because blah blah blah. Okay, and that's it. You only need one explanation, and you'll do your job better. So it's important.
It's so important.
Well, yes.
All right.
We agree.
Should we go to the interview?
Yes, please, because she's great.
Yes, we're so excited to be interviewing Tess Whitty. She is amazing, and we really hope that you enjoy this interview.
And you learn a lot from her.
Yes. Today, we have the honor of interviewing Tess Whitty. Tess is a certified English into Swedish translator specializing in digital marketing and IT. With a degree in international marketing and background as a marketing manager, she also shares her marketing knowledge and translator experience with other freelance translators as an award-winning speaker, trainer, consultant, author, and podcaster. She is involved in several translation associations as committee chair, language chair, trainer, and mentor. Tess, welcome to En Pantuflas.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
It's a great honor to have you here. You're a celebrity, you know? You must know.
Yes, but it's like everybody knows the monkey.
No, thank you. Thank you very much for taking this time to talk with us. And it's a real pleasure, really. And I think it's very important for our podcast escuchas, like we name them, our podcast listeners, to listen to someone like you and to get some of your knowledge. So do you work in sleepers? Because en pantuflas means in sleepers,
I know. I was just going to ask why it has that name.
Oh,
yes, I do work in slippers. Of course I do.
Yeah, that's why the program is called like that, because we all translators usually work in slippers.
Yeah.
Why bothering, you wearing any other shoe? And with the pandemia and the coronavirus, that the slippers became very popular.
Yes.
Yep.
Among other professions.
We discovered them first.
Yes. It's ours. So today we are triangling. How do you say that word in English? Wisconsin, Utah, and Buenos Aires.
Yes.
Oh, well, that's great. Thank you very much. Okay, so Tess, you have a webpage, a podcast, 6 books. You're a powerhouse. You're kind of a machine. So first of all, we'd love to talk about your podcast, Marketing Tips for Translators. We're big fans. All translators need some marketing, some knowledge.
Yes.
So can you tell us more about that project?
You mean how it got started or?
Whatever you want to tell us.
How it got started and how it's going.
Yes.
Okay. I guess I started by listening to a lot of podcasts myself. I am an avid learner. I enjoy learning new things. And at that time, I still had our dog when I was out on walks and running or bicycling or driving in a car. I started listening to podcasts to learn new things. And I really enjoyed that medium because I could do it while I was doing other things.
Yeah.
So I started looking into maybe I should have one. I had already started by sharing my knowledge through webinars and workshops and presentations at conferences. So I just took it a step further and said, I'm going to try to do a podcast. And there wasn't many podcasts for translators at that time. It was Speaking of Translation that I know of, but I wanted to focus on the marketing side also a little bit more. So I decided to give it a go, and my goal was 100 episodes. And now I'm over 260 episodes, and I still enjoy it a lot.
Wow.
206. That's amazing. Oh my goodness.
Yes. I don't know.
It's so much work to do it.
Exactly. I was going to say, you both know how much work goes into it.
Yes.
So it has to be something that you enjoy in order to keep doing it. But I really, truly enjoy speaking to all fellow translators and other experts, sharing knowledge. And I learn a lot myself, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens.
We always say that we learn so much from our guests. It's incredible.
Another thing is that we do sit at home, most of us, in our slippers. So doing the podcast is also a social thing for me, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always say that doing the podcast with Pao, every time I finish recording, it's like I'm smiling and I'm just like happy in general. So it's just like a good thing for your soul too. You know?
Yes, it is. It's actually is the same. And you can still be in sleepers, you know, when you do it. So it's a win-win.
It is.
Win-win.
It is. Yeah.
Tess, but I want to say you're so generous with your knowledge. I've seen you present several times at the ATA conference, and I've learned so much from you and from your books and your podcast. It's all the knowledge that you share, especially regarding marketing and how to market yourself and how to use the platforms available online. It's incredible. And I want to thank you on behalf of the whole translation community, because we've all learned so much from you. Thank you. I'd love to talk about your books. You have several books, and I recently read one that is based on your podcast. And I also read the marketing tips for translators. So can you tell us more about these books? How was the process about writing them, and what has been the most rewarding experience for you in writing those books?
So I only have 2 real books, physical books that you can buy through Amazon. And that is the Marketing Cookbook and the Marketing Tips for Translators book. Yes. And I started with those. I started with the Marketing Cookbook. I think the books that I had read that, for example, Corinne McKay published and other books have helped me a lot. So I wanted to sort of condense my marketing knowledge and share it in a way. And I heard somewhere, maybe in a podcast, I don't know, they talked about the recipe for success. And they talked about marketing as recipes. And that's how I got the first idea of how I would structure my first book. It was going to become a cookbook, which has recipes with like the ingredients and step-by-step instructions to do a certain marketing task. For example, networking or LinkedIn profile or LinkedIn marketing. And it's also structured in a way that the appetizers start with sort of the basics that you need to know to have a successful freelance translation business. And then the main course are sort of the standards, and then and it goes it advances so that it should be more advanced skills towards the end. And the desserts are the little cherries on top. Wow. So that's how it started. And I based it on my presentations and my skills and what I had learned and so forth, and started writing. And writing a book is hard work.
Yes. I was gonna say it's so hard. How did you manage?
I teach a class, and I had a webinar about it, and I show my income. And that year that I did I had to put aside every Friday, a few hours every Friday, or every Friday basically, to get it done. And I can see a dip in my translation income that year.
Wow. Sure. Just because of the book.
I'm sure others can do it better, but that's how I did it. For the second book, I thought that it was a lot of good tips that had been shared in the podcast, but I know that a lot of translators, at least at the time that I published this book, still did not listen so much as they read and sort of digested content then, and I wanted to sort of distill the best marketing tips from the 100 first episodes into a book. So I picked out the episodes, and then I had them transcribed, and then I started writing that. So that's how that book came about. And,
Oh, I see.
But then
that must have been a lot of work too, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had to ask for permission to share bits from other people for the book that I had interviewed.
Did anyone say no?
Don't be a gossip.
Yeah.
You don't have to say who. Just asking.
One person, and they of course were not featured in the book. They had the option.
Right, of course.
There's always one. Oh my god. And
So,
then
the other books are only ebooks, and they're shorter, and they focus sort of around being quick guides for how to either set up your website and optimize it, or create a marketing plan, or distill your unique selling proposition. And
yes, very interesting too.
So that's about the books.
Yeah. I think that doing the podcast, or giving your webinars, courses and talks, and writing the books are all different channels of communication. And that there must be something you love, some characteristic in each of them that you love most, for example. I don't know. Or that you think that they are going to serve in a different way for different audiences, right?
Yeah.
So that's the question. It wasn't very clear. If there's any characteristic in each of those communication channels that you love most, for example.
I love the podcast for what we said before, because of the interaction, the talking, the learning, the social aspect of it. The same goes for the webinars and the talks and the presentations. I really, really enjoy the interaction, and especially seeing that it helps, or that I can help people, and that they appreciate them. The podcast, I don't know unless somebody tells me. And the book, I don't know unless somebody tells me. But presenting live or in a webinar, I can tell right away, which is very, very rewarding. So I think that's my favorite medium. The writing the book was more like, okay, this will serve more people, and they can read about it and have it. And especially the cookbook, you don't have to read it from cover to cover to learn everything. You can go back to it and say, okay, now I would like to work on my networking or something like that. And you go to that recipe.
Right. Yeah, it's there.
I remember a presentation you did on LinkedIn that sort of sparked my interest a while ago in one of the ATA conferences. And I was like, maybe I should pay more attention to LinkedIn. Like after that presentation, and now I'm like on LinkedIn every day. I'm like super active, and it's brought up a lot of opportunities for me. So I guess I have to thank you for that, Tess.
You're welcome. I think LinkedIn is more important than ever right now due to the pandemic too.
Yeah. I've seen a switch definitely since last year. A lot of more people posting about experiences, and not just like things that they're doing professionally, but like things that they're learning in their life and how it's impacted them. And like, it's been really cool to connect with people like that.
Yeah, it is.
So talking about marketing, what's the one golden marketing tip you give to translators?
Okay, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it is to specialize, to dare to niche down. That is the most important thing, and I think it's more important than ever, because if you are a generalist, especially a less experienced list, you are also competing with machine translation these days.
Yeah.
But so the sooner you can, the better it is to specialize and find a narrow niche. And that doesn't mean that you can't do other related jobs, but you will be seen as an expert, and your marketing will become so much easier if you know what industry you're targeting, what you're good at, and what companies or clients you're trying to reach. And it's so much easier to communicate your value to them if you are specialized in that area.
You're so right. And like for myself personally, it took years for me to actually like say I do this exactly, because I like had that conception of, oh, well, I don't want to miss opportunities.
Yes.
Like I also do translations in these other areas. And maybe if I only say I do this, I might like miss opportunities. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Like changing that narrative of what my specialization is really opened so many more doors for me, particularly just like saying I do exactly this.
And
I'm
have
an
you
expert in this.
noticed? Have you do you think that you have missed opportunities because of it?
No, not at all. In fact, I do video game localization. So I found myself in situations like talking with someone and saying like, I do localization, so translations for the video game industry. And they're like, oh, my husband works as in this video game studio. Maybe he can connect you with someone. Like this is a true story. And this person connected me to like this huge video game company. And so it opened many opportunities for me to just be like super specific. And had I said I do translations, maybe the person wouldn't have known where to refer me.
And even if I say that I specialize in digital marketing and software website localization, I get all sorts of requests still.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that it would have limited myself at all.
No.
Yeah. You know that I began to hear about specialization when we began making this podcast. You know, it was a concept that I haven't heard or I haven't thought about before. And as Marina said, it takes some time, maybe, to discover really what you like or what you're good at, and to say, I do this or I'm this. And it's really clear when someone, sorry for the repetition, but has it clear, you know, because you immediately think of the other day, for example, since the International Women's Day is approaching, you know, I was working on a text that had to do with that. And I had a pickle with the original text regarding some word. And I remember a colleague who works with gender issues, gender and gender marked text and all. So I asked her directly. And if I had to do some work related to that theme, you know, I would just present her to whoever wants it. So it's very important. It's a great tip. The best.
Yep. It's the golden tip.
It's the golden tip. Okay, so you said before that you receive all kinds of requests, and I have read your webpage. It's very, very, very beautiful. I loved it. And some comments from people. For example, I loved the comment from the father of a bride that you translated the speech.
Yes.
It's such a nice job. So I thought you must have some professional experience or anecdote you treasure or you like to talk in meetings or here in a podcast.
So since you mentioned the wedding speech, that is one of my most enjoyable projects. So it was the father of the bride The husband and his family were Swedish, and the father of the bride wanted to give a speech in Swedish for that
Wow.
part of the family.
Mhm.
So he asked me to translate the speech and to record it so he could speak it.
Wow.
Listen, like he trained himself so he could speak it, and he gave, it was very well received and everybody loved it. So that was one of the most endearing projects I've done.
Yeah, that's a great review, because he says people laughed in the places they were supposed to laugh. Like, you did a great job. Yeah, I found it. Yes, very nice.
But then I also, and this is something I do share to my email subscribers, the biggest mistake I did, because we all have made mistakes in our career.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my mistake was when I first started out as a translator, I was also afraid to specialize, and I wanted as many jobs as possible and get experience. So I remembered I received a job to translate a user manual for a welding torch, a blowtorch, like for welding. And I accepted it.
Oh my gosh.
And that was the hardest project I've ever done. It took so long. I had never touched or used a blowtorch before. I don't have any experience in the field. And no matter how hard I tried, I wasn't able to do a good job. So, and I heard that from the reviewer and the proofreader. So why am I telling you this? It's just the lesson that we all make mistakes in the beginning. And the most important thing is that we have to learn from our mistakes. So what I learned was the importance of specializing and not doing all sorts of jobs, and focusing on a few areas that I know well and I'm interested in. So it doesn't just make it easier for me to do a good job, but it also means that I'm faster and it's easier to find clients for me, like I said before. So having a specialization will make it easier in all sorts of ways. So.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so true.
I couldn't agree more. So can you tell us more about the courses that you are giving? You do classes, right? Also for translators?
I have online courses and workshops. So workshops are mostly held for other organizations. For example, SDL, and I did one for training for translators. I'm going to do one for pros.
Oh, very nice.
And then I have sort of 2 flagship courses, and one is running right now, and it's called Marketing Mastery for Experienced Translators.
Wow.
That sounds super interesting.
And it takes you, you have to have at least 2 years of experience and just want to take your business to the next level, perhaps start focusing on direct clients, etc. And I've tried to distill both mindset and marketing skills in that course. And then I have another one that I launched last year during the pandemic. And that's online marketing or inbound marketing for translators, which means your website, content marketing, social media, how to optimize that and use content marketing to attract clients. And I did that because I don't live where my clients live. It's hard to go network locally. I work in a small language pair. Swedish is one of those. It's not one of those first languages that you need translation for usually. So I've relied the whole time on getting clients, especially direct clients, through my website and LinkedIn, for example.
Yeah.
So I thought that was important, and even more important during the pandemic. So I launched a course, and I have a guest teacher in that course because she's super, super good at internet marketing. And she also works a lot by getting the same method as me, getting leads to find her. Her name is Martina Russo, Italian. So that is the other course. That one is next time I'm having it is in May. So
okay. So if anyone wants to take your courses, they can find the information in your web page, right? Or
yes,
LinkedIn.
they can go to marketingtipsfortranslators.com, and if they sign up for my email list, then they will for sure get the information once it goes down.
Okay,
if
great.
you can do it, do it. It's probably going to be amazing.
I was wondering when you were talking about this language pair you work on, which is not very common, and given the fact that you work with marketing, what is like to translate from English to Swedish? Which characteristics are there in that target audience?
I'm not sure
what challenges. Yeah, I don't know how to say it, because I think it's they are very different cultures,
Yes,
of course, different languages, different cultures. So have you found, or do you find certain typical challenges when working with text from English to Swedish, or not?
Well, I think I've gotten used to them, but I know that Swedish is more like, we don't say, please click here. We say, click here.
Well, same in Spanish.
In Spanish, it's the same. Yeah.
Or, are you sure you want to cancel this? And in Swedish, we just say, do you want to cancel this?
Right.
Yes. More to the point.
And then just little cultural things like the sports comparisons, and you can't be as how do you say, braggy in Swedish as you can be in especially American English, and those little nuances that
they are not so little.
And a lot of the times I have to comment to the client and say, this is not relevant. We don't have states in Sweden. We only have a country. This is not relevant. We don't use checks in Sweden.
Yeah. That's great. Tess,
sure.
So for this third season of En Pantuflas, which is coming to an end very soon, we always ask the same question to our guests. And for the third season, this is our last question, which is a little maybe
okay.
Get ready.
Maybe philosophical.
I'm sure you can.
Think science fiction.
Oh.
Yeah. Kind of science fiction.
So the question is, if you could go back in time to when you first started your career, what professional advice would you give to yourself?
Okay. Well, yes, but I have another advice, and that is, if you start out as a freelancer, you have usually either been a student before or worked for somebody else, and it's very hard to switch and think that you work for yourself and treat your freelance translation career as a business, and realize that the clients, you are helping them. They are not your employers. You set the sort of the boundaries for your business, and you have to treat it like a business from the start. And that is a hard switch or a hard mindset change. But the sooner you can realize this, the better. So I also, of course, since I have training in marketing and it has helped me immensely, I say get training in marketing and business skills as soon as possible.
That's great advice. It's like, it's something we always talk about this, but it's something we don't really see in school. They don't really teach us that most of the work is as a freelancer, and that you have to know how to run your own business. So they don't teach us how to run our own business, in the translation studies, which is interesting because you go to the market really kind of not knowing much about how to approach it, how to do it, how to organize yourself. So I think this is a great tip.
And which is why I do what I do. I do wish they would teach marketing in the translation programs too. I keep saying that to everybody that wants to listen, but that is one reason that I do what I do and do offer marketing tips and marketing training.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you for that. Because we need it. Most of us
I need
it a lot. So
we all do.
Yeah,
so
we all.
By teaching it, I also have to make sure that I stay on top of the marketing skills, and especially that I practice what I teach. So.
Yeah,
sure.
I think what you were saying also is keeping on top of it is also so important, because it's something that changes so much.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so you have to be like constantly willing to be able to learn like the new ways to do it right.
Yes. So my friends, when they ask for podcast advice, are not very happy, because I'm like, oh, there's this marketing podcast and there's this marketing podcast.
The marketing
not
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's well. It's been a great interview. Thank you very much for talking with us, and for all the work you do for our community. And I don't know. I have one of your books, so I'll tell you the how to let me say the name correctly. Finding and using your unique selling points.
Okay.
So I'll tell you. Yeah, I'll tell you in, I don't know, when I finish it.
Okay.
Yes. How am I going to apply your insights? So.
Okay, that sounds great. I look forward to hearing that.
That's my plan. Yes. So thank you very much, Tess.
Thank you so much, Tess.
Thank you.
Y ahora con ustedes, el momento catártico del programa.
Los invitamos a escuchar al traductor karaoke. Generous deadlines and clear instructions, good and fair rates and no other deductions, a style and glossary that's short and sweet. These are a few of my favorite things.
Straight up Word files with no formatting frenzy, clients that pay without driving me crazy, projects that are in my specialty field. These are a few of my favorite things.
Many repetitions, but client pays full price. Feedback that's helpful, thoughtful and precise. Clients that understand what translation is. These are a few of my favorite things. When the file's corrupt, when the deadlines rush, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad.
Este fue un nuevo episodio de En Pantuflas, patrocinado por nuestro amigo fiel, MemoQ. Si sos tan fan de MemoQ como nosotras, aprovecha el 45% de descuento exclusivo para podcast escuchas. Anota este código, CAM-pantuflas45. Podés encontrar todos los episodios del podcast en nuestra página, en _delmediopantuflas.com, y suscribirte para escucharlos apenas salen en iTunes, Spotify y Google Podcast. Prohibí sorpresión, en la Argentina, en Los Ángeles, Buenos Aires, Pantuflas al virus.